Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddha-Acharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddha-Acharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We will be studying page 200 today. Yeah. On this 14th day of June 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4 entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Text number 13 on page 200. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Abhyam Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Abhyam. Page 200. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Abhyam. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Abhyam. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Abhyam. No? Not yet? Yes? No? Okay. Anyone on Zoom? Yes,
Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam
Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam
Gunakarma Vibhagasha
Gunakarma Vibhagashaha
Tasya Kartaram Apimam
Tasya Kartaram Apimam
Vidyakartaram Abhyam.
Vidyakartaram Abhyam. Word by word meanings. Chaturvarnyam, the four divisions of human society. Maya, by me. Srishtam, created. Guna, of quality, karma, and work. Vibhagashaha, in terms of division. Tasya, of that. Kartaram, the father. Api, although. Mam, me. Vidhi, you may know. Akartaram, as the non-doer. Abhyam, unchangeable. Page 200. Translation. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. Purport. The Lord is the creator of everything. Everything is born of Him, everything is sustained by Him, and everything, after annihilation, rests in Him. He is therefore the creator of the four divisions of the social order, beginning with the intelligent class of men, technically called brahmanas, due to their being situated in the mode of goodness. Next is the administrative class, technically called the kshatriyas, due to their being situated in the mode of passion. The mercantile men, called the vaishyas, are situated in the mixed mode of passion and ignorance, and the shudras, or laborer class, are situated in the ignorant mode of material nature. In spite of His creating the four divisions of human society, Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions, because He is not one of the conditioned souls, a section of whom form human society. Human society is similar to any other animal society, but to elevate men from the animal status, the above-mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for the systematic development of Krishna consciousness. The tendency of a particular man toward work is determined by the modes of material nature which he has acquired. Such symptoms of life, according to the different modes of material nature, are described in the 18th chapter of this book. A person in Krishna consciousness, however, is above even the brahmanas. Although Brahmins by quality are supposed to know about Brahman, the Supreme Absolute Truth, most of them approach only the impersonal Brahman manifestation of Lord Krishna. But a man who transcends the limited knowledge of a Brahman and reaches the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnav. Krishna consciousness includes knowledge of all different plenary expansions of Krishna, namely Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha, etc. And as Krishna is transcendental to this system of the four divisions of human society, a person in Krishna consciousness is also transcendental to all divisions of human society, whether we consider the divisions of community, nation, or species. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge, and as we have been through this, the first 12 and now 13 verses of the chapter, we see that a lot of it has to do with work with, first of all, we learned about why Krishna appears, why would God come down from heaven or the spiritual world to this plane? And what does he do when he comes here, if he comes here? So Krishna says very distinctly that he does come here periodically, very seldom actually. He comes as himself once in a day of Lord Brahma. There's different, we call them demigods. They're not God, but they're more powerful living beings on higher planes. We know about heaven. These are different levels of heaven. So Lord Brahma is the original person in this world, original individual living entity. But he's very, very powerful and he's very long-lived, inconceivably long. Just like we have a body that's made a high percentage of solid matter and liquids and things like that. So his body is made almost entirely of intelligence. And therefore, it lasts a long time, inconceivably long. So one day of Brahma, 24 hours of Lord Brahma, is over 8 billion of our years. That's how long, and Krishna disappeared 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan. So we're very fortunate, practically contemporaries. And when he appeared, he did various things. He had a whole set of pastimes in Vrindavan, which is like a town, very rural. He was a cowherd. He played the flute. He attracted the gopis and all those pastimes that are so famous. And that was just one phase of his presence in this world. Then he went to Mathura, and he took up a different phase of life. And eventually he went to Dwarka, and he was a king there. And he had many wives, and he was leading a different life. But in every case, he was acting as the Supreme Lord and performed wonderful pastimes that we are told of in another book that we have called Krishna Book. So here, he's speaking on the battlefield. It's a very dramatic context, actually. Arjuna is the main fighter on one side, and this is a fratricidal war that is taking place. In other words, meaning that on both sides, they're cousins and they're brothers, relatives. And it's for the rule of the earth, and it's on the basis of dharma. One side is adharmic and one side is dharmic. The side that Krishna is on, he's not fighting. He's taken the role of a charioteer of his friend Arjuna. And he's speaking this now when Arjuna suddenly doesn't want to fight, because on the other side are his friends, his relatives, his teacher, his grandfather, and he thinks his heart was telling him, I can't possibly be involved in killing these dear friends of mine and relatives. But he's caught because he knows that Krishna wants him to fight and that there's a higher purpose for the fighting, which is the reinstitution of dharma and virtue in the world. So he's in a ontological paradox, if you will. So he's paralyzed, and in that state, he surrenders to Krishna as a disciple. rather than just a friend, because he's been a lifelong friend for Krishna. And that's Krishna is speaking this on the battlefield, very dramatic. So, why does he come? So he says at the beginning of this chapter, Yada yadahi dharmasa glani bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasa tadatmano sajamyaham. You may have noticed the word dharma there, which is an English word by now. And it's often translated as religion. But more precisely, it's described in the Bhagavad Gita and also another book we have, which is more voluminous, called the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is this? What is dharma? What is dharma, which is something in the human society? It's not just, religion is a poor translation. So dharma, the word dharma is based on a root word called dri, which means that which sustains. Just like very dramatically, the deities here are called Radha Giridhari. That word hari is the same root as dharma. Giri means mountain. So it's Krishna, who's one of his pastimes was holding up a mountain. And you see the sculpture. You see that on the corner there? Each of the corner of this temple has a beautiful sculpture of Krishna holding up the mountain. There's a wonderful pastime to that. So this deity is called Giridhari, and then Radharani is greatest worshipper, very attractive, you'll see. So, what is dharma? Means that which is our essential nature, which sustains our being. And when we are not situated in dharma, then our life can be very problematic. And right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, Krishna gives some essential information that everything else is built on, that rests on. And that is that this body is not who we really are. That's kind of a revolutionary concept because, well, who else could I be? You know, I have a certain name, I grew up a certain family, I have a certain race, ethnicity, family, and as I mentioned, and all of these things go into making who I am, right? And Krishna says, no. This is just one stage of our life. We have a body composed of the things it's made of, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the various liquids and all these different things. But we ourselves are separate from that. We're the conscious element within this body, called the Atma, or the soul in English. And in a key verse, he calls it the Dehina. Deha means body, and Dehina means what's in the body. It says, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yovanam jada, tata dehantara praptir, dhiras tatra namuyati. So he says, just as the living entity, the soul, the Atma, passes through different stages in this one life. All of us were little toddlers, you know, at one point, right? We couldn't speak, we were dependent on our mother, just could hardly see properly. But we were there. And gradually the body grows, and then we go to first grade or kindergarten, whatever it is, and there's a whole other reality we're dealing with. And gradually our mind is developing, our body is developing. But who is that who possesses the body? That's the soul. That's who we really are. A quantum of consciousness which never dies and is never born. Najayate mriyate vakadachan. This is another verse in that same chapter. So what he's saying is there that if you just contemplate your life, we've been through various bodies. The body's constantly changing. It's getting older and getting bigger for a while, and it stays at that. And gradually it gets older, and eventually we know it's going to pass away. But we will not die. We will go on to another body. This is the idea of reincarnation, karma and reincarnation. So, and we've been doing this for a long, long time. If we're eternal, you can imagine how many bodies we've had. You don't have to imagine. There's a number, 8,400,000 different species. The species are not exactly what is meant defined in the Western culture. So that changes everything, doesn't it? We were once, I don't know, plants, insects, various animals. We were demigods, higher bodies. But if in any body we just stay attached to the object of the senses and our false identity, then we're sure to come back again in another material body. If we go down to the lower bodies, we automatically come up. There's no sin, there's no laws for cats and dogs and all these animals. They're not, because they're not intelligent, they're not responsible. They simply act according to instinct, as we know. And eventually they die and they move up until they come to the human form. Human form is a form of responsibility because of the intelligence. And in this form, we can act in such a way that we don't have to come back. And that's a preliminary goal that we should have if we understand this reality, this truth of this science. But so how can we act, and what can we do in this life to at least move toward the principle of liberation, and in Prabhupada's immortal phrase, go back home, back to Godhead. In other words, we're all exiles here. We've been here for countless eons, but we don't belong here. And what we're looking for, as any living being who's ascension, is to maximize our happiness and minimize our suffering, right? Who can deny it, you know? And at a certain point in our life, we say, okay, I got it together, you know? I got my degree, I got a job, I got a family, I got this and that. But obviously, it's temporary. It's temporary. And tragically, those things which we're so attached to, you know, are eventually taken away from us. Sometimes, like I'm getting old now, and, you know, there's all these aches and pains, and your health, I mean, is so valuable, but it's taken away, you know. And friends, family, people who you love, you know, eventually they drift away, or they go away, or they die, or something happens. This is the nature of material life. So this is not at all a life of ananda, or bliss, unending bliss. It's simply a struggle to eke out a little bit of pleasure and happiness and security in this world, and meeting with failure, again, ultimately. So Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita and all of this, that we can come to a state of consciousness where we're not absorbed in the sensations of the body for pleasure, but rather our consciousness is hooked up to the Supreme Consciousness, and it's all personal. We're persons, and the Supreme Consciousness is also a person. Just like anything that shows intelligence, like these doors I'm looking at here. Someone conceived of them, an experienced carpenter or door maker, whatever it is, and there were certain various designs. He knew, you know, what tools to use, what wood to get, and all these different things. And he produced this door like he produced so many other doors, you know. But there's a person there. There's an intelligent person who is working on it. Anywhere you look that you see obvious organization, there's an intelligence behind it. Where there's an intelligence, there's a person. Now, where do you see more intelligence than in the workings of this world? The sun's coming up at just the right time, a little earlier, right? We're coming to the longest day, which is the beginning of summer, in about a week. And then it'll gradually get longer and longer. It's been happening like that for who knows how many millions of years. So that's organization. You know, the fact that I've been here since '89, and that ocean, it hasn't moved. It's been there, you know. Luckily, it hasn't been a tsunami. There could be, you know. But the point is, there's obviously intelligence here. And behind that intelligence is the supreme intelligent person. And we are also eternally related to that supreme intelligent person in a bond of eternal love. The whole purpose of this discipline of bhakti is to reawaken our dormant love for God. There's a beautiful verse in a book called the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Krishna, in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's another lecture. Not only did Krishna appear 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, but he appeared 500 years ago in Bengal. And he's teaching his foremost disciple, Sanatana Goswami, and one of the verses he says is, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, Sadhya Gabonoi, Shobhanadi Shuddha Chitte Kodaye Udoy. This is Bengali, it's not Sanskrit, it's kind of a derivative language. Very beautiful language. So it's very simple verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, the eternal perfection of love for Krishna, which you have to understand raises us up to a platform of inconceivable happiness and bliss that doesn't end. There's different varieties of it, but it doesn't, like sense gratification is flickering. You aspire for it, you hear about it, you know, and then you want it, then you have to work, make some money, and go, so you can go where you want to. And then if everything works out right, you're experiencing it. And then there's the memories. Then you have the video to remember. You know, it's actually very temporary and fleeting. and frustrating, because we as souls are by nature eternally happy. But we can't do that in the material elements, so we're frustrated. So this is the promise, is that by following carefully the process of devotional service, which has been made feasible for us, you know, we don't have to go off to the Himalayas and try to meditate for, 100 years or 5 years or even 10 minutes. It's difficult. The point is, we can do it right where we live. It's practical, and it works every time. So Lord Chaitanya said, Nitya said to Krishna Prem Sadhika Banoy, that this eternal perfection of love of God, prema, this is the goal, pure love for God, is there dormant in every living entity. And by practicing bhakti, beginning with hearing and chanting, just like kirtan. You know, you hear Hare Krishna and you chant Hare Krishna. I hear you chant, you hear me chant. So, Shravanadi, Shuddha Chitte, that purifies the consciousness and it naturally awakens that dormant love for God. That's the goal of the whole process. Now, back to our verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is describing a social organization. He comes to this world to try to reinstitute Dharma because we're all his sons and daughters. We're wayward when we're suffering. So he cares about us. He comes down and he teaches the leaders of society. In one case, he taught the sun god. Now he's teaching Arjuna the science of bhakti. He protects the devotees. He eliminates the miscreants, the demons, and he reinstitutes Dharma. That's the next verse. Patatanaya sadhana vinasayita duskritam. Now, one way he does that is exactly what we're experiencing now, by speaking the Bhagavad Gita and empowering throughout history his great devotees to teach that in such a way that is understandable amongst the people of that age. And this was Prabhupada's great mercy and compassion on us. So much trouble to translate this, to give so we can chant the verses. The Sanskrit itself is powerful. It has a beautiful purifying effect. So he gave us an opportunity. I don't know how to read those Devanagari letters, but I can read this transliteration, which is phonetic. And then he gave this beautiful explanation to call the purport, which he's, by the way, he's drawing from previous acharyas like Vishwanath Baladev Vijayabhushan, and giving us this explanation. So the social organization, there has to be a way of organizing society that's most favorable for spiritual advancement. And here he's giving, according to the modes of nature. We're going to learn more about that in chapter 14. But we all know what they are. We just don't call them the modes of nature. We've all seen the phenomenon of increasing homelessness, even in our town here, but in other cities it's more prominent, or other parts of the city. So these unfortunate souls who, they don't have a job, and so they're on the street. And that's a place that is conducive to the development of the mode of ignorance. Means that there's so much suffering that you may search for some intoxication to forget it, to dull the pain, or sleep a lot to try to forget it. Sometimes you see people just sleeping, at least in my dreams. It's a sad situation. This is the mode of ignorance. And it's described in the 14th chapter. One is too lazy, likes to sleep, intoxication, and madness. These come, So, whereas the mode of passion is one of great activity to enjoy the material senses. And that's more or less the predominant mode you find in the world today, those two modes, passion and ignorance. It's like a typical example is someone goes through school, MIT, graduates with a math degree, but he wants to make a lot of money, goes to Wall Street, because they also use a lot of math there to figure out the stocks, and work 18 hours a day, or a lot of hours as an intern, maybe just getting enough to live on, so that he can really get going and make millions of dollars in the stock market. And then really enjoy, and get this nice car and girls and everything like that. That's the mode of passion. And the mode of goodness is a mode where you're more reflective. You're not so being controlled by these lower modes, but you realize life has a higher meaning. And let me inquire, let me read in philosophy, and maybe I'll become a vegetarian, and do some yoga, and like that. And so that's the mode of goodness. So here he's describing a society should be organized in such a way that those who are predominantly in the mode of goodness and are studying, what do they study? They study the Shastra, the scripture, and they become pure. These are the brahmans. What is the characteristics of a brahman? These are described in the 18th chapter. Shamadhamas tapak shaucham. Control of the mind, control of the senses, welcoming austerities for purification, and cleanliness. Belief in God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not astikyam brahma karma sabhavajam. These are the qualities that, and jnana and vijnana, means book knowledge and also realized knowledge, experiential knowledge. And then the mode of, the kshatriyas, they're more conditioned by the mode of passion. Yeah, they're someone who has natural charisma, is a natural leader. This person would be a natural kshatriya. But they're meant to be acting according to the advice of the brahmans, because the kshatriyas can get into the mode of passion and then want to control and exploit, and they go down a dark path that way. So they need to have reverence or deference to the brahmans and say, do it this way, do it this way. But they're also meant to be learned. That's why I have this word Rajarshi, a king who's also a philosopher king. Right? Don't we have that in Greek philosophy? They're the best. So, and they're very concerned, and we read about so many of them in the Bhagavatam, such as Yudhishthir, Parikshit, and many others. That they're very concerned that the people in general are secure and that they're nicely situated. It's not that, oh yeah, how can I exploit this group and that group? You know, that's demonic. That's demonic. They have the power, literally, but they don't have the virtue. Power and virtue are meant to go together. And then you have those who are either agriculture, they're farmers, or they're mercantile. They create wealth. And the kshatriyas, the good kshatriyas, they can tax and they can run the society. And the brahmins, they live on charity. They're meant to be austere, live very simply. So they can't be bought off. Nowadays, the intellectuals, like I remember reading about the how finally the tobacco industry was, had to admit that, smoking may cause cancer. They were paying off doctors, unscrupulous doctors to be in advertisements or write things. No, there's no final proof actually that it causes. Yeah, there's. You can see what happens when you yield to that temptation. So this the kshatriyas as well as the vaishyas and the brahmanas are all meant to be virtuous. And then there's a great pool of manual laborers who are not able to study, and they're more or less controlled by the mode of ignorance. But they also, if they're properly situated, they can be uplifted and they can also be happy in society. So Krishna created this system, and we see reflections of it even in the world. There's always a class of intellectuals, right? Teachers in the college and everything, And there's also military leaders and people who know how to manage things. And there's certainly those who are good at making money, or at least try to be good at making money, right? And then there's also a whole bunch of manual laborers. You can see it. But if they're not guided by the instructions of the Shastra, then there's always disturbance in society. And you find, like we have today, we got the financial system going, but now it's out of balance and the inflation's going crazy, And everyone knows the gas is so expensive and it's unstable. So it causes tremendous disturbance in society. Because you have the different divisions, at least externally, but they're not following according to the Shastra. So that Krishna is saying here, I created these, but I'm not part of them, and I'm not affected by this creation, because he's transcendental. So there's not much more to be said about this, but Krishna consciousness is actually beyond these four dharmas. In other words, someone who's practicing bhakti yoga seriously, we may be more, passionate in this and that, but we're all trying to rise up to the platform of pure goodness. Not just goodness, but pure goodness, unadulterated by the lower modes. And like Krishna consciousness, the basic principle, when in a few minutes we'll have a kirtan, hopefully most of you or all of you can stay. There's no modes of nature there. It doesn't matter who you are, you know, how old you are, what your background is, what your gender is, it doesn't matter. Everyone can participate because it's on the transcendental level and benefit tremendously. So that's the wonderful thing about Lord Chaitanya's process. It doesn't, there's no prerequisite. No, only the brahmanas can do it. No, only this, you know. No, everybody can do it, you know. And even sometimes animals get involved. Lord Chaitanya was so powerful when he went through the forest. He had the elephants and the lions and everyone chanting Hare Krishna. There was no cell phones. There's no pictures of it, but there's a witness. So sometimes, you know, so if they can do it, we can do it, right? All right. Any questions on this verse? Or we'll go on.
Not on this verse, but
in general?
yeah.
All right.
So yesterday, I think I wanted to ask yesterday, but we didn't have much time.
Yesterday.
So you mentioned it's Bhagavad Gita we are translating in so many other different languages, right? Because people don't understand.
Yeah.
But I believe reading in Sanskrit has its own significance. And when we say verses in Sanskrit, when we even pronounce this has certain changes, vibrations, and it's very pure.
Yes.
So my question is, people who can speak Sanskrit, who can't read Sanskrit, is it okay if they just read in their own language, whether it's Arabic, Turkish, or Russian, or they have to go through Sanskrit and then in their language?
It's definitely okay. If they can't chant the Sanskrit verses in Bhagavad Gita, then you can just learn one verse. Hare Krishna, Krishna. That's also Sanskrit. That one verse you can know. But yeah, but you're absolutely correct, and that's why I mentioned Prabhupada took so much trouble. And it also adds to the authority. Here you've got the original text, you know, that none of us can read, I assume. Maybe a few of us. Maybe you read it, Devanagari. And then, but this is standard in universities. This is a transliteration, you know, system. We have the diacritics. It's not Chaturvarnyam, it's Chaturvarnyam, you know, like that. So Prabhupada wanted us to be able to pronounce precisely for what you said, because it has certain potency, a purification potency, even if you don't understand the meaning. And if you want to understand the meaning, there it is, word by words. Like if I say Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam, I mean, I never studied Sanskrit, but I know what those words mean. I created this system of 4 social orders, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. By me, they were created. So it's a wonderful form of meditation in and of itself. And just as an illustration of your point, aside from Bhagavad Gita, which is, you know, so wonderful and essential philosophy, but the Sanskrit is so beautiful, and there's so much beautiful descriptions of Krishna in Sanskrit. I'll give you a sample from the Krishna Karnamrita. Now it's interesting, just that title of that book is very far out. Because here, Krishna Karnamrita means nectar for Krishna's ears. Now I'm writing a book. Isn't it a little bit, you know, prideful of me to say, this book is going to be nectar for Krishna's ears? I know it for sure. So I better not, no, I don't want to do that, so I'll title it something else. But this author, his name is Bilba Mangal Thakur, as he's writing, he was actually blind, he made, you know, but he was composing it. He could experience Krishna enjoying his verses. This is what, you know, going on. So here's one or 2 sample verses. First one is one that everyone can learn because there's only 3 or 4 words. And it has a beat. The rhythm of this language is beyond anything in any other language. So madodam vapat asya vibho madodam vadanam madodam. Madogandi mridusmitame tadaho madodam. So you may have noticed that word, madodam, there, which means sweet. So that's half the verse. You know half of it already. So what does it mean? I put it in a poem. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face, so fair. But his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Now this is, you know, he's not just making this up. He's seeing it in his spiritual eyes because he's blind. But he's seeing this as he's on his way to Vrindavan. He's going to Vrindavan. He's being helped by several people, you know, that get there. And he's composing this verse. It's part of this Krishna Karnamrita book, which is very famous. Lord Chaitanya found it in South India. He brought it back, had it copied, and it became famous. And one more from there. It says, near the end of the book, it's a prayer. It says, Jaya 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 Deva 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 Chibhavana Mangala Divya Nama Deha Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shavana Manona Yanama Tavatara. Oh, glory, 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 Lord, oh, glory unto thee, who with thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. Oh, glory, glory, glory unto thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. So this is reality. He's experiencing this, not just some dream or some hallucination. He's experiencing the presence of Krishna there and how it's just the source of all happiness and bliss, and we can also experience it. So this Sanskrit language is very wonderful, and yeah, we should learn to chant them. It's not that difficult. These verses, I can help you if you want.
Yeah.
All right, should we do one more?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a question right behind you.
My question is in regards to the karmic cycle, specifically the goal of liberation from the karmic cycle through loving and devotional service, bhakti yoga. You talk about this dormant bond to the supreme consciousness that is dormant within all living entities. My question is, how or why have we come to this point that we have to reignite that dormant Ananda, I suppose?
That is a universal question that's been asked. Why did we leave? You know, in other words, if it's so blissful up there, why in heck did we leave? And the answer is, it has to do with this idea that it's a land of love, and that loving exchange that's taking place between each living entity, and there's a countless living entities there in all different varieties, and Krishna, that requires, if you think about it, love means there has to be some independence, there has to be some free will there. Prabhupada famously said, Krishna doesn't want us to love him at the point of a revolver. Love me or else. That's not love. Even if I then out of fear serve you, that's not obviously love. So therefore, when it doesn't make sense when he created us, because we're eternal, but we exist with a minute portion of independence. We can withhold that love or we cannot. Now, why would we? That it's a mystery. But there is the temptation. In other words, the principle there is we're deferring to Krishna. We're eternally in the mood of service. And that means that we're thinking of his pleasure. And that by working to give him pleasure, we find ourselves in bliss. But there is always that chance that we may think, well, I want to try to be the enjoyer and the master. And as soon as we have that idea, there's a whole world out here that's been created where we can try to enact that. And it's called the material world. And there's a beautiful verse in there's always a verse in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describing this. Bhayam. Bhayam means fear. Bhayam dvitiya bandhabeshataksyad ishara petasya viparhiyo asmati. That's half of the verse. I'll explain that. So bhayam occurs. There's no fear in the spiritual world. It's known as Vaikuntha. Even Goloka Vrindavan is a Vaikuntha planet. It means no anxiety, ever, for anyone. You can imagine it. Not like this world. So, but fear occurs when we turn our back on Krishna and we become absorbed in this world of duality. Dvitiya binaveshitaksyad. Isha means the control of the Lord. Apetata viparyo asmati. We forget. Our remembrance is covered. And everything becomes reversed. Instead of becoming a servant of God, we become a competitor. We try to be the master, which is not our natural position. We can be a master for a little bit in the material world, but then we realize that we're actually being controlled. And we're subject to the limitations of the body and everything, obviously. So this occurs because the living entity has that freedom. There's no why to it, you know. We did it. And it's caused by Maya. So one who is intelligent, Buddha, Abhajetam, will find ways to again worship that same Lord. How can we turn back? This whole movement is helping us to turn our face, turn our consciousness and our senses toward Krishna. primarily through His name. Because God is so powerful that He is non-different from those things which are directly related to Him. In other words, this deity form, there's a statue. Beautiful statue, it's got nice flowers and everything. But because of the worship and because of the way it is installed and worshipped and everything, that Krishna is actually there in that form. Meaning that we can relate to Him and serve Him and reawaken our love in that way. Because in our present state we can't see the Spirit, but we can see the stone. So He appears through the stone. We can hear the name Krishna. So in that way we can be in contact. Now this is all very amazing and inconceivable, but this is where we should learn about the parampara, which Krishna talks about at the beginning of this chapter, meaning a series of realized souls, great souls who have realized Krishna, who and then teach. They're called acharyas. Acharyas means they know this scripture backward and forward. They live according to its tenets, and they take the trouble to teach. And so they become examples, just like Srila Prabhupada. He showed this wonderful, peaceful, blissful demeanor to everybody. It was naturally attractive. And what he taught gave us a chance to experience some of that also, to make advancement. So this is the Acharya principle, the principle of the spiritual master is very important. So that's the way in which Krishna reaches out to us. Through His name, through His form, through the prasadam, through the temples, and through His words. And the words of those who are pure devotees of His. So we have a chance to turn back. It's a question of turning again our face to Krishna and doing those things necessary to awaken that dormant love. Why it happens? Well, we have to ask ourselves, why did we do it? It was foolish, wasn't it? So now we can turn away. The turning away from Krishna is what? A flaw? It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. But now we have a chance to fix the mistake. That's the best we could do on that. If you're further interested, I have there's a book that's been written. It's not actually published as a book, but I can send you a PDF, and you can read. There's a wonderful devotee named Judah Karma, a godbrother of mine, who did a lot of research on this topic from different shastras and different quotes of Prabhupada. He can explain about the fall of the jiva. I'm sorry? I think it's the origin of the conditioned soul, something like that. The origin is in there. Yeah, I can give it to you. All right, so this is now, we're getting a little late, and we don't really have time to do another verse, which was B14. But how about a poem? Is it okay? I did this one the other day, but a lot of people here didn't hear it. There's so much written about the holy name, the glories of the Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. So this is a verse. This is actually 8 verses of a 100-verse poem we learned fairly recently, and these have been picked out as the favorites by somebody. This was written by a contemporary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a Goswami. I don't think it was a disciple. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the father of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. And here's how it goes. I'll just give one Sanskrit and the rest English. Madaram madarebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi harer namaiva kevalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Krishna is the name of Shri Hari, and so is Rama. He's the guru, he's the father, he's the friend most true. And she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always hear and chant the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Sri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed in him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Sri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Sri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Sri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Sri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Sri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme. Divinity in sound is filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Sri Hari is surely all that be. Then I wrote a 9th verse. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Sri Hari, Sri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Sri Hari in ecstasy. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. So now, in a few minutes, we'll have kirtan. And then prasadam. Tomorrow, same time, same station. And I'll bring some of my extra Vyasa Puja books.